And I thought, you know what, it's time. I got to build a personal brand that will then feed my businesses. You worked with Bradley Martin.
Right. Yeah.
And
Sarah Safari was the other big one that I worked for.
You already had experience posting all the different platforms.
Right.
You know, all the kind of little tools and techniques of doing the posting. So having that experience was really important.
Right.
Let's fast forward. So hired you full time, right? We decided that we're going to take this room and rip it all out. We've created kind of a blueprint for starting up a podcast.
Yeah.
And so now it really is about just creating good content. So would it have been easier for us to start this 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean...
In life, there's a blueprint for everything. There's no need to start over. Hear from industry leaders, those at the top of their fitness journey, and real estate gurus. They tell you exactly how they did it. All you have to do is listen, learn, and execute. This is The Blueprint with Brad Rice.
Okay, here we are back at The Blueprint at the very beginning of 2025. And today I want to take a minute to reflect on 2024 and where we started with The Blueprint, where we are now, and what to expect in 2025. And with that, I've got a very special guest with me. It's the man behind the camera. Actually, one of the men. We have two, but Micah has been there from the very beginning when we started The Blueprint. I've got Micah with me today, and he and I are going to kind of discuss how we got to this place, what we do behind the scenes, what we do to prep for things, like just kind of give you the inside of what's gone on to get us to this place, and then what our plans are for the future. So Micah Pedersen, welcome today.
Thank you.
To The Blueprint.
Yes, sir.
And we've created kind of a blueprint for starting up a podcast.
Yeah.
Because there's no real great resources out there, as we both found out when we were starting this thing, for how to put the room together and do all these things. So I'm going to roll the clocks back for a minute and go to like what inspired me to put out an ad to then hire you.
For sure.
So I joined a group called the 7-Figure Creator that Rich Summers put on, right? And so I'm an investor in Rich's boutique hotel fund. And I've seen him grow his socials over the last couple of years. In fact, I met him because he was on a podcast. He was on the Brad Lee podcast. I listened to what he was talking about with boutique hotels, and it resonated with me. I actually knew one of the properties that he had purchased in Northern California. And I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. He's in San Diego. Let me just connect. We hit it off. Ultimately had me on his podcast. I invested in his fund. And then one day he posted in his story that he was going to start teaching people how to do the things he did to build up his social following and in turn his podcasts that helped him to raise funds, which is where I came from for his fund and all that. And I thought, I got to do this. I've waited way too long. Like, I've not really dug in on socials, not consistent. I had a podcast, very inconsistent for a couple of years, virtually. And I thought, you know what, it's time. I got to build a personal brand that will then feed my businesses, because I saw how successful he was. So I signed up for it, and I kind of did an elevated thing with him, and I really wanted some one-on-one where he would help me with the hiring process, because I was going to go all in, right? And not everybody that joins that group really does that. Like, very few do.
Yeah, if any.
Yeah, they do try it themselves, which is all fine, right? But I was like, I'm just going all in. We had a lot of equipment, but we didn't have everything. We had a different set here. So anyway, he helped me to put an ad together. He had kind of a template he had used to hire somebody, and we ran an ad. And we interviewed 7 or 8 people. So he helped us there were hundreds of applicants, hundreds.
Wow.
Then we weeded through those, and his team helped me do it. We weeded through the ones that really didn't have any experience, because when you run an ad for a job, it's like somebody who works at McDonald's still just submits a resume. Right? So we had to weed that down. I think we got it down to about 30, 35. And then took a deeper look at those resumes and did and reached out to those people. If you remember, my assistant did that.
Yeah, I remember doing like a one-on-one with Nihao in the very beginning.
Yep.
Before anything else.
So they gave her the questions to ask.
Right.
And she kind of pre-screened, and then she sent me those videos to take a look at and tell her which ones I wanted to meet in person. And so there were 6 people. I said, let's go ahead and schedule these and meet in person. You were one of those.
Right.
You were actually the last one.
Yeah. I remember also going to Rich's too at one point too.
Well, that was after so I'd done the interviewing. I'd met and there's a thing about when you're hiring somebody for, this kind of, we have kind of an intimate relationship, and you're behind the camera and it's vulnerable and all those sorts of things. You want to be comfortable with the person, but you also want them to be skilled. You want them to have, flexibility in their schedule. There's like a lot of different components.
Yeah.
And so of the, 6 or 7 that I did the in-persons, there were a few that were just like, it wasn't a vibe at all.
Yeah.
There were some that was like, okay. But when you came in, it was like, oh yeah, I could totally see this. Plus you're local. Right. We knew we had mutual people that we knew, that we both trusted.
Right.
And it just kind of, meshed.
Worked out.
And so you're the only one that then I sent to San Diego, and Rich and his team did a second interview. And they tested you. So tell us what happened there. What did they do with you when you went down there?
My advice for someone selling their home: number 1, do it yourself and save. Number 2, use HomePie.
HomePie makes it easy to buy or sell without an agent. I can list a home in minutes and start receiving offers right away from buyers.
When we discovered that we didn't have to lose $40,000 in agent commission just to upsize to a larger home, it was an obvious choice.
List your home for free at homepie.com. Keep your piece of the pie.
I just went down there, checked out his studio and his set, met his guy that, at the moment produced everything. He kind of showed me around, showed me, I knew a lot of it too, but, there's a couple things that you got to learn here and there. And just going down there, filming a podcast with Rich. Rich was super cool. Made me feel at home and everything. And I just went up there and learned. And the guy kind of interviewed me as well when I was there, who he had working. But for the most part, just super laid back, and they were super cool, and just learned a couple things.
Yeah, because you had never filmed for a podcast before, had you?
Yes, no. So I hadn't filmed for a podcast.
Yeah.
No, there's obviously other stuff that I've done that's very similar. Just kind of like certain, talking to the camera and stuff like that. But for the most part, not like podcasts, not like a sit-down podcast kind of like this.
Yeah, because you were a freelance.
Right, yeah.
What did you call yourself?
I just did like freelance videography and content creation, right? Okay. So like anytime someone would need me for a video or, trying to blow up, or I worked with influencers who, that was their job, is to take, videos and post them online, and I'd help them. Also like, content strategy, stuff like that too, on how to, grow yourself with the algorithm, because the algorithm is honestly a crazy thing too. Yeah. And what's crazy about the algorithm too is it's constantly changing too. So there's like no way to really nail it down. It's the people who get big nail it down at that moment. And then from then on, they're still trying to figure it out. Yeah. Because, as I was working for them and, doing stuff like that, they were always like, well, the algorithm's changing. So like you have to adapt with it too, which is so weird, because it's like when you think of the algorithm, it's like, what even is it?
Yeah.
What is the algorithm? Or like, what are we even talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can try to define that, but before we do, you did work for some big influencers. Yeah. Again, you were freelance, so it wasn't like you were full-time with them.
Yeah.
But like you worked with Bradley Martin.
Right. Yeah.
And
Sarah Safari was the other big one that I worked for. I worked for a couple other small people here and there too, but those are like the biggest names.
They were the biggest. So you had this experience, you're just kind of going back to like, weeding down to the people that had experience and so forth. You already had experience posting all the different platforms.
Right.
All the kind of little tools and techniques of doing the posting, which, frankly, it's not that difficult, but you got to take time.
Right.
And you have to invest time to learn.
For sure.
The software, essentially. You got to learn the app.
Yeah.
And there's so many nooks and crannies to it. And then, so for me, it's like I'd never have time for that.
Right.
Like, I still today, like you'll tell me to do something, and then I'll come back a week later and go, how do you do that again?
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're doing all of that. And so having that experience was really important.
Right.
Knowing cameras.
For sure.
Just before we started here, you set up your camera over there, which is your camera. Like these that are filming us today are cameras I had, but you have a big professional camera.
Right.
And you use your equipment to supplement what we have.
Yeah.
But you set it up there to take our photos for the newsletter, and you did a timer on it, and you took your own photo, which was great. We did a video of that.
Yeah, maybe we'll pop it up or something.
Yeah,
but I just set it on timer because we needed a thumbnail, and it's only us two right now.
That's right. So it was an easy thing for Rich's team, and then for me to see that you had all the base knowledge. You certainly knew cameras, you knew editing. And the podcast thing is just going through the motions.
Right.
So let's fast forward. So hired you full time, right? And we decided that we were going to take this room that was set up as really kind of one side of a virtual podcast and rip it all out.
Right.
And we were doing research, like how are we gonna do this? What are we gonna dress it up as? What are we gonna use? And we were looking everywhere for like ideas, and there are ideas out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you go on YouTube, you can go, on different sites and look at things. But really, there was no template to follow. Rich and his team helped with like an equipment list, but as far as like building a podcast room and knowing soundproofing and the lighting part of it, like that's not something you really teach virtually. Right. And so it was a little bit of trial and error, and we found things like, for example, and we did a video on this. It's on our YouTube channel. We did a video on how to set up a podcast room. Yeah. This is just a standard size office. It's like a 13 by 13 feet.
Yeah, for the people that are watching, it was tricky because how small of an office this is. So, with the lights, cameras, everything, you can't have obviously cameras showing in different angles. We have the wide angle up there. Yep. So it definitely was like super strategic the way we placed everything.
And frankly, we're taking different angles today than what we did in the first couple episodes.
Right,
we're like, that didn't really work. It's too high, it's too low.
Yeah.
But like this was, we wanted kind of a unique background, but we wanted to be custom. Mm-hmm. And we found a custom wallpaper place. Yeah. And had this printed and installed. So, nothing's perfect, by the way. When you're filming and you're seeing a podcast and you're there in person, like this room looks really good, and it's like we did a really good job. But a lot of sets, they're like put together with duct tape, and like behind the scenes they're not even like really structurally good. Right. We had this desk built custom. I wanted a certain size and angle. It's built in a way where it looks bigger than it actually is.
Exactly.
The wood panel. So anyway, we took the time to put together the podcast room, and along the way, we're part of this group, right? So every week we're meeting with a group of people, and we're getting feedback. We're learning about algorithms, which we'll talk about. Yeah. And we're getting feedback on posts. Rich brings in guest speakers that are big influencers that are telling us what they're doing and what's working for them. And then we have a one-on-one with Rich every week where we kind of talk about our own work and what we're doing. But the algorithm does keep changing. So having a group of people in a community that kind of gives you their feedback on what's working and what isn't helps to try and figure that out. Yeah. But basically what it is it used to be that if you had a ton of followers, you're going to get a lot of interaction. Your video is going to get out there. You're going to get a lot of likes and a lot of comments. TikTok kind of changed the game on that.
For sure.
And so now it really is about just creating good content and not the followers. Right. So would it have been easier for us to start this 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say if you're considering joining the AmeriFund team, it's a really good idea.
We as processors at AmeriFund Home Loans support the loan officers in every aspect of the loan once it comes into processing because we want them out there marketing themselves and originating more loans and supporting more borrowers.
Competitive commission plans are a given, and powerful technology is expected, but what truly sets us apart is our culture. We've built a solid support system for our loan officers.
If you're interested in joining the AmeriFund team, go to amerifund.com/careers.
I think there's aspects to both, right? Obviously with the creation of TikTok and Instagram and all that, and it's honestly like the short form videos that are on like Reels or For You pages, or, you know, that's almost made podcasting in a sense oversaturated as well, because everyone's posting, you know, YouTube clips, you know, here and there, and and they're having their podcasts, they're clipping it up, throwing it on those platforms. So yeah, I mean, you can say it could be easier then, just because there was less people doing it compared to now, but the algorithms weren't as good then. So it's a little bit of both.
Exactly.
You know?
So like we had Matt Stefanina on recently, and he's got 30 million followers on various platforms.
Right.
And he even admitted like the playing field is leveling out.
Right.
Like he still has obviously a huge advantage with all of that, because more people see it and they're subscribed to it. But the way the algorithms work today, it's all about producing good content. And they'll push out the content to a select small group of people, see what happens, what kind of interaction. And then if it's good, then the algorithm will spin it up and show it to a wider group. And it does that like in 3 or 4 levels to then, that's why when a video is good and it starts growing and growing and growing, it may come back a month or 2 later and have another shot at it. Yeah. Because the algorithm picked up that people are still interacting with it. So
for sure.
That's what's really leveled the playing field.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like back then too, we always were talking about people, you know, when we talk about someone's success, they're always like, you know, it didn't happen overnight. Now it literally does. It literally could. And there's, you know, creators out there who like just started posting for fun, and suddenly one video blew up, and now they're Alex Earl, who gets paid, you know, a couple $100,000 to make a video, stuff like that, you know, when it all started with just literally overnight success.
With one good
video. Yeah. So that's like super.
And you don't know what that video is going to be. Like the video that you think least will work, sometimes all of a sudden just is like, what the heck? That was nothing.
Yeah.
And to date, as of this recording, like we don't have a ton of traction as far as subscribers and followers and all that. Even videos that have gone, you know, viral. I wouldn't even call our video that has the most views to date, which is I think about 195,000.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even consider that really viral based on today's standards. So you just got to be consistent with it. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
So we committed to doing one podcast a week. So we drop our podcasts on Thursdays. And look, it's not easy because, you know, we'll try to stack a few in a row and have some in the bank, so that if something happens, if we miss something, if we're on vacation, if somebody doesn't show, that we don't miss that. And we've been really good about it. And we want to have a recording dropped every Thursday. You've got to be consistent. But like today, you know, we're recording this because we had somebody who didn't show, and last minute they canceled, even though I rushed back from a vacation to do this, you know, last minute. So this type of thing happened. So what we're doing is we're just kind of ad hocing. We decided let's just do a recording.
Right.
And I'd say, look, 2024, we've been at this now, I'd say about 3.5 months, somewhere around there.
Yeah, probably around.
Yeah, 3.5 months or so. And I think this is about where I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I didn't think that we'd blow up overnight, but I did think that we'd get in a rhythm, that we would be able to interact together, and we do have a third person on the team. Chris is on the team, and be able to kind of share the workload and create consistency.
Right.
And we now have like a system. We use Trello to keep track of all of our posts, what's coming up, what we still need to do with ideas and that sort of thing. We share a drive where we post in kind of a calendar format what's being released.
Yep.
We got to get better at certain things.
Of course.
We're not posting the story enough.
Right.
We're still kind of posting 4 or 5 clips in a row that are kind of from the same podcast.
Yeah.
Which can be boring.
Right.
So we need more content that we can jump around. We're working on that now. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is about where I expected to be.
That's good.
We're not, you know, this isn't a profit-making thing. I haven't elevated awareness to the point where I'm getting the end benefit, which is I want to be able to create awareness for my mortgage company, to be able to recruit more loan officers, and be able to create awareness for my for sale by owner tech platform, so that people that are selling their own home know more about us and find us and use the platform to sell their own homes and save on commissions.
Right.
So those are my kind of purposes. That's why I wanted to put the podcast together, build a brand, and then feed those businesses. So if you're going to start a podcast and you're thinking about doing that, you got to think about your why.
Of course.
And then what's one of the more important things when you're posting to think about when you're posting? Are you a tech investor looking to shape the future of real estate? HomePie is the #1 for sale by owner marketplace, and we are revolutionizing the way homes are bought and sold. I'd love to hear from you. Just email invest@homepie.com and let's chat. Now back to the show. Your audience.
Right.
What are they going to like?
Yeah.
What's going to resonate with them? And this is something we're constantly battling with, right?
Right.
What's the right banner? What should we call this? What's going to really resonate with people? And then the idea is to really post things that not only people will like, but they'll share.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a tug and pull with, finding something that can, is engaging, can go viral, but then also finding your target audience. And we've, had multiple conversations about kind of who our avatar really is and who we're after. But yeah, if you can really get those shares, those comments, likes for sure, but yeah, for sure shares are where it's at.
Yeah, that really is today. Like the algorithms
Right.
like the sharing and the saving.
Right.
But yeah, there is kind of this give and take about really reaching your target audience and not posting things that bring in an audience that, love that video, but they're really not going to benefit you for your goals. Like,
Right.
The purpose of feeding the mortgage company and the real estate platform is we want people that are interested in real estate.
Of course.
So we post like some silly,
Yeah.
video that goes viral.
Yeah.
But it's about,
Yeah.
playing with dolls or something,
Yeah.
what is that audience going to do for us? It's not going to do
Right.
anything. And so there is this thing like, how do we make it interesting? How do we make real estate interesting? How do we do something unique? And we're still learning that and we're getting better at it. It's about the reps, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think we posted like a golf video of the guy like swinging his club, and like it actually did well, but like it's not going to translate exactly how you want to.
Yeah.
Just because we're not attracting golfers or stuff like that. People who are relating to that video are definitely golfers, and we're not attracting them.
That's
so.
right. That's right. And there's also this balance between like you want to bring value. So people that are interested in real estate or in building their kids' credit or putting themselves in a position to succeed financially or restart, right?
Yeah.
There's this balance between doing that and then also showing your own personality.
For
right?
sure, yeah.
And so people need to be able to relate to you. They need to be able to kind of know who you are and be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And so there's and we're still learning this, but there's this balance. And so every now and then we'll post something that's personal. And maybe we need to do more of that. I mean, thinking about 2025, we're going to get better. We're going to continue to get better. Even in my interviewing, I'm beginning to ask better questions that people have interest in.
For sure.
Having maybe better interaction. So if we go back to kind of the first or the second one we recorded, maybe some of that was a little awkward. And you really only know that if you're watching the long form.
Right.
Like when we're chopping it up and you're editing it, like you're making it look good anyway.
Right.
But getting better at that so that we really have some viral content we could pull out of those long form recordings.
Right.
But I think in 2025, it's really going to be about continuing to improve the guests that we have on. Really succinctly talking about their blueprint so people can really learn. Like that's something I really want to get better at.
Yeah.
Micah is really good at filming and editing and posting.
Right.
And that he has built a blueprint for that.
Right.
How does he do that? Like literally, how do you do that? And we won't get into that today, but like if I'm interviewing you and maybe we'll do that again and I'll be like, what exactly do you do when you're doing the edit? What are you listening for? What are you looking for? How are you bringing those elements forward and combining them? How are how are you chopping it up and not making it look like one frame is here and the other one's way over here?
Right.
And so that you're pulling that together, but it's still consistent, and it sounds like one consistent sentence.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we won't get like too deep into it, but I mean, just like if you think about anything else in life, right? If there's like, a sport or basketball, they're practicing every single day. They're shooting 1,000 free throws or whatever it is, With video editing, it's similar in the sense where, you're watching other clips too, and you're hearing those sound bites that, catch your attention. Or like if you're watching other videos go viral and you really study and break them down, it's like, why did I just watch that? And it's not even like 30 seconds. Sometimes you're like stuck on like a 2-minute video in the algorithm, and you're just like, why did I just watch that? Like, what was it about that video
That's right.
that added value or entertainment? And kind of going back to what you were saying about how like you need to get better with this or that. I think that if you can think of any creator out there, they're either adding entertainment or value. If you think about
education or entertainment.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So, I mean, obviously there's, certain art creators that can do both. But if you think about it, like you're either watching somebody because you want to get something out of it, or you're watching them for just pure entertainment, right?
It's either learning or being entertained. Correct?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to just video editing and stuff like that, it's, you kind of just hear those sound bites as they go. And it just comes with repetition too. Like, when I'm editing, it's not like I'm thinking instantly like, oh, like I gotta mentally like look for them. I just watch the podcast through, and then if I hear something quick, then I go back to them and kind of rewatch it again, and then from there, you kind of just come up with the edits.
Yeah, and it's about the reps.
Exactly.
The more you do it, the better you are.
Exactly.
And when you're watching and when you're scrolling through your feed,
Yeah.
you're actually looking through a different lens. Like you really are looking at, how did they do that? Oh, that was good. That's why I didn't swipe past this one.
100%.
And you're learning from it. And most people don't do that. So that's kind of the blueprint that you have of improving your skills.
Yeah, and it's honestly psychological too, the way like you think about like, why did I stay on that video and why did I watch that video? What was it that they said that caught my attention? And like a lot of the times when we're making these clips, it's like, what will someone like instantly like listen to it and like instantly be engaged into it, and like you have to like go back to, and it's like
that hook is so important.
Yeah, the hook, exactly. The hook, that's arguably the most important part of the video.
So you're going to see us, we're going to improve on this. We're going to get a lot better. These podcasts are going to get better. We're going to be very succinct about really uncovering the blueprint of the people that we sit with, so that you can really learn from what they've done and how successful they've been. We're going to continue with real estate being the main theme. Mm-hmm. But as you've noticed with, some of my previous guests, it's not only that, right? We have dance choreographers and we have people in different walks of life. Mm-hmm. What's interesting, and I say this all the time, and I said it on the last podcast, is it seems like no matter where somebody is successful, ultimately, if they're successful and they're making money, it winds up in real estate. And so when I started my career, I just cut out the middleman. I got into real estate. Mm-hmm. But you'll find that no matter who we're talking to, if they become very successful, they're doing something in real estate also with their money on the side, whether it's personally or as a business. And so we're going to uncover more of that, I think, moving into 2025.
Yeah.
We're going to continue having our AmeriFund spotlights, loan officer spotlights, keep bringing in those loan officers so that if you're a loan officer or if you're in the mortgage business, or you're a real estate agent, you can learn more about who our people are and why they're with us, right? And we've had some really good interviews there. We're going to have more. But yeah, I think, in general, it's going to be a much better year because we're going to be better at what we're doing.
Right, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and we've already gotten so much better when we started too. We've already gotten to the flow, and it's just going to get easier from there.
Yeah.
So.
One of the other things we're going to do is start a community. And it's going to be the 90-Day Blueprint community. So I've been giving presentations and been online giving presentations and doing it in person on helping loan officers, mortgage loan officers, either restart or kickstart their business by building a database that they'll be able to grow and rely on for decades. The community that we're going to build with that is going to be something where they can every week tap into something that's going to help them. And more importantly, we're going to hold them accountable because it really is about doing the work. And most people don't, but they will. They're more likely to do it if they're held accountable. So stay tuned for more of that. And what I would ask you is this: if you're watching this video, if you're listening to it on some audio device, please give me a review, like, subscribe, follow. It really does help. We're just getting started, or as Rich would say, we're just getting warmed up. So, it would really help a lot if you could share this, share it with friends. We're going to continue to bring you a lot more value. And Micah, man, thanks for being part of the team.
For sure.
And being a good sport today and getting in front of the camera.
Yep.
You were a little hesitant. I said, come on, man, let's just do it.
Yeah.
But I think we'll do this every now and then. Or even, even when we're out there, we're out in the field and we're filming, turn the camera to yourself every now and then.
Okay.
I think that's cool. But yeah, we're also going to bring you some really interesting vlogs. We'll be releasing a vlog on an ADU I'm building, which is an accessory dwelling unit behind a house. We're going to show you how that's done from start to finish. I've got another one that I'm going to be doing after that. So we're going to give you kind of that behind the scenes information. Will be a resource for you. Exactly. So stay tuned. Again, like, follow, subscribe, and we'll be back on The Blueprint with Brad Rice in the next episode.